Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Word Balloon Live. It's a Friday night, and look who just stepped out of an IRS record.
Who? I can't imagine.
It is Shelly Bond, everybody, everybody's favorite editor. Welcome, Shelly. So seriously, I started to tell you before we were going on, you are awesome to do video. Thank you very much.
Hey, listen, last time it was just audio with the two of us.
That's right.
And I asked you a couple of questions, and I knew that you were trying to hide from me. So this time, look out.
I am excited to talk to you about a few things, and happy to open things up to questions that people have. We are all over the place, Shell. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter all at once. Periscope, I guess, is what Twitter uses.
Nice.
So, yeah. And you're here to talk about a few things. One in particular, and we can get right to it, is Insider Art.
Yeah.
Tell me about the project.
Insider Art is probably one of the greatest initiatives I've ever been involved with. And it came about just quite recently. Obviously, we've all been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. As soon as it hit, we all knew it was bad. And as usual, people in comics, lots of negativity. And it just seemed like the right time to kind of like bring everyone together and make some comics, because there's nothing greater than, joining forces, especially with female and non-binary creators for a great cause. We put together this, actually it's like a three-prong initiative to specifically support people that are overlooked, like I said, female and non-binary retailers. So this project, it's something else. I can't even explain how gracious I am to not only everyone who's working with me, and there are 8 editors, so I can't claim, to like be doing this all myself, but there's so many people who have donated generously, because not only do we've got a digital anthology that we're working on now that's going to go up on Gumroad in June. We've got a fabric that is going to be a cat jam, because a cat is our mascot.
Yep.
So we've got 32 artists who gave us just one cat, and I've assembled that into a fabric jam. So now I'm like a junior textile designer.
Outstanding.
And also, most important right now, today, we've got an auction. I want to give a big shout out to Gene Ha. You know Gene, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Chicago's very own.
Also a Chicago denizen. I'm not sure if he's a native, but I know you're based in Chicago.
Yep.
Gene never lets me down, comes through for anything that I'm affiliated with. And I just want to give him a serious shout out. I'm going to say cheers. Gene, I've got a grape fresca here in your honor. Thank you for donating an incredible Wonder Woman cover. He donated the cover from Sensation #2, and it just sold on eBay for $1,275. So thank you to Gene.
That's beautiful.
Thank you to the generous bidder who won, because it just kicked off this incredible campaign, because everything that we raise from Insider Art goes directly to support female and non-binary comic book retailers.
I'm bringing up the link because, if you go to eBay, there's an entire list of great stuff that you can get, and reasonably starting bidding prices. And really, that's a steal. It's a great, generous donation. But to get a Wonder Woman cover, that's fantastic. That's outstanding. And of course, Gene, Gene's a great guy, so I'm not surprised that he's contributing.
There's no doubt about that. In fact, later on, unless you want me to sort of show it off right now, I brought a few other items.
Please.
Generously donated from the jungle that is my garage. I excavated my garage earlier in the week, and I found this beauty. I don't know if you can see it.
It's in silhouette. What is it?
It's a bronze statue of J.H. Williams' Sandman from the Sandman Overture.
Oh, very cool. Oh,
so it was limited to 100, and I put that up as well. And I think it started at like $40, which is crazy ridiculous. But what a way to start. Let's get the bid up.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now I've gotten us back on the wide shot so people can see the Insider Art logo.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You. So, outstanding. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Carol Merrill. That's
well, you're welcome. Well, you're welcome, Bob Barker.
No, that's really, really cool. Rattle off some of the great creators that are helping out with comic book stories and insider art.
Oh, we have so many amazing people. We've got some of the usual suspects, I think, that you that associate with me on these projects, like Gail Simone,
Great.
everybody's favorite person in comics, Kelly Sue DeConnick, Jill Thompson, who, by the way, this is an exclusive just for you and your viewers and listeners. Jill did an amazing cat for the Fabric Jam, and it literally came in 20 minutes ago, and I'm going to just show it off right now.
There we go. There's a close-up. Very nice.
How amazing
Very
is
nice.
that?
That's
from
excellent.
Jill Thompson.
Yeah. Another Chicago, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I thought it would be a nice feature to show off tonight.
Definitely.
So many people have contributed. Let me explain the conceit real quickly.
Yeah, please.
Because I never just want to do a generic project. I always like to have a concept behind the projects that I do. And this one was pretty much a no-brainer. Everybody's stuck inside, so why not do a comic book called Insider Art, not only for all ages, activities, crafts, comic stories, history of garage rock.
Yay.
But it's the kind of book that you want to have around when your kid is homesick from school, or when you play hooky, or when you don't want to go to work and you want to just hang out and just like go through this massive compendium. It started out as 200 pages, and it's clocking in about 240 right now, and we're just going to keep going. I think that's the joy of digital. If we want to make it 300, we can.
Okay.
And, we're going to ask people to pay what they want. We're going to suggest $9.99.
That's great.
But whatever you can afford. And we just want to get it into everyone's hands. It's pretty much combines my love for comics, especially indie comics, and crafts. I've always been into making things from stuffed toys to mixtapes. And I think what you'll find in this book, we have one house and 8 different rooms, and we have 8 different editors who each were given 25 to 30 pages and told to go wild and to create stories and games and crafts that can take place in these specific rooms. And of course, there are tons of cats, but one particular house cat. And that house cat gets into a lot of trouble. So there's something from cover to inside front cover through every page of the book, and it's all cohesive, and it's just a lot of fun.
Was this your concept, or did who came up with this?
It was. I confess, it was mine.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of thing I could have done on my own because I wanted it to happen fast.
Understood.
And so even before I reached out to the amazing editors on the book, who I want to talk about a little bit.
Please, absolutely.
But instead of going straight for editorial, I went to one particularly badass female retailer named Jen King.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this force of nature?
I very tangentially, so please help me out.
Well, Jen is, I think, probably the greatest supporter of comics that I've met in the past decade. She runs a shop called Space Cadet Collection. I've checked twice on that, and I looked in the phone book too. It's 2 collections.
Okay.
She runs a store. She runs a Facebook comic book shopping network. So she's constantly doing eBay auctions, and she runs our auction for Insider Art.
Oh, that's great.
She is a champion of comics for kids. She was a fan of my Vertigo books. She did her best with Black Crown, and I know she was a big supporter of so many titles. So she was my first point of contact because she gets things done.
Okay.
There are a lot of people in comics who say they'll get things done, but if you go to Jen, she's just going to take care of it.
What city is her store in?
Conroe, Texas.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's great. Very cool.
Yeah. So she's been a tremendous help. She's been gathering all the female and non-binary retailers together who've been really hit hard. And it's an incredible group of people, and everybody on the team, everybody in the book, we've got over 100 people involved in the book, contributing. And it's an amazing group of creators. And I'm just super excited to assemble the whole thing now because it's all on my shoulders now. All the editors, 8 editors, have hit their deadlines. They didn't even need to be prodded because I think this is the kind of project where no one's getting paid. So we're donating our time and our mad skills, and it was just a labor of love for people. So there wasn't any bullying or bribing or kicking butt. Everybody delivered, and it's now I'm holding the bag essentially because I'm editing the garage section.
Okay.
And I'm assembling the book, and I'm doing a lot of lettering and design.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
if it doesn't come out, you know where to find me. You can kick my butt.
Hey, I have an image you gave us of. Is this from the book Garageland?
It is from the book. I did task each of the editors to come up with their own chapter header page with a design and with a photo of themselves. And the one that I put up was illustrated by an amazing cartoonist named Abby James. One of the things you probably know about my anthologies, because I think you were a supporter of Hey Amateur.
Yes.
There's nothing I love more about an anthology than bringing disparate people together from all different parts of the globe who would never meet except on a comic book page, and putting those people together and seeing what happens, seeing them create art. And this book is no exception. So it was a great excuse to call on people like Gail Simone and Kelly Sue DeConnick, who I mentioned. But then also, over the past 4 or 5 months, I've been reading comics nonstop. And I'm blown to bits by all of the talented people coming out of the indie scene. And Abby James is someone whose work I picked up at Cala Art Show in January.
Okay.
And I was really impressed with her stuff. She did the header here for Garageland, and she has a 3-page story in the book.
Cool.
There are also a tremendous amount of British talent. I mean, always.
Oh, great.
Because let's face it, British and music go together more than any other.
Absolutely. Oh, she froze. All right. Well, hopefully.
So we have so many incredible people who are donating their time and skills to this book. So you are going to see like tremendous work.
I'm really excited, Shelly. And honestly, I've said this before. You and all of the other Vertigo are editors that Karen had working under her. I appreciated your taste. You guys are tastemakers, and really from Axel to Will Dennis to and now all of a sudden, Joan Hilty and all these great people that I remember. And again, I mean, I was like, Vertigo was hitting me at the right time where I was. I mean, I love superhero comics. I still do. But as I was getting older, it's like, all right, like let's read other things. And it's so great how the comics medium has grown up, really in the last 30 years. Not to age us, but honestly, in terms of like the great stuff.
Us. All of a sudden, it's us now.
No, and also, it's you guys are in control and can really curate and see the talent and bring them forward. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's one of the great things about Insider Art in terms of introducing us to new people. So that's fantastic. I have another image, and this is, and forgive me, I don't remember the artist, but I know this is from Teenie Howard's story. So I don't know who that might be. And it looks like Shelly also froze again, but that's okay. She'll be back up soon, I'm hoping. Let's see. Are there any questions right now? No, they're not. Look how great Shelly looks. Seriously. Isn't that fantastic? So we'll see. Maybe she'll, I'll let her know that she's frozen right now unless she pops back shortly. But anyway, I'm glad everybody is here and enjoying what I'm doing here on Word Balloon Live. And Chaos and Comics. Yes, indeed. Black Crown is great. I've liked everything I've read on it. So hopefully Shelly will be coming back and we'll continue the conversation. But really, man, it's so interesting. And I look forward to telling Shelly about the various creators I've been talking to lately who have just, on their own contributed just anecdotes about working with Shelly and how important that she was to their careers. So that's really great to see. So Wayne, my nephew prefers the finite stories the Vertigo offers over the superhero ones. Sure. No, and that is honestly, that is one of the great things. And again, Vertigo, I think, led the way in showing that comics can do anything. And I think that's really important. So, that's, I think, always been one of their strengths as far as doing comics. Got it. By the way, I'll take this opportunity while I'm solo to thank everybody for the wonderful support that they've shown in terms of getting what I'm trying to do here. And Bill, you were really nice. Thank you for what you're doing. Your podcasts have helped me stay sane. Thanks, man. Hey, I'll be honest. Doing these has helped me stay sane as well. So I am happy to. This is my small contribution during the weirdness to kind of keep us all sane. And hey, everybody's home, so I'm reaching out, and everyone's saying yes. So why not, generate a bunch of conversations that we can all do, and take this opportunity. So, I'm honestly happy to do it. Early on, someone had asked, and this is another generic question that I think I can cover. Darren Bruin wanted to hear my thoughts on the new Star Trek show announcement, Strange New Worlds. If you are a Star Trek fan, you probably are if you listen to Word Balloon, because you hear me rant about it and you're still a Word Balloon listener or a League of Word Balloon supporter. I'm optimistic, because I think the best part of Star Trek Discovery Season 2 was Anson Mount as Christopher Pike, and I love Rebecca Romijn as number 1. And I am willing to give I think Ethan Peck is a fine actor, and I think he's doing great with the material he's being given. I am not crazy about smiling Spock. And this obsession that the creatives have in charge of Star Trek to explain why Spock was smiling. Who cares? To me, it's not a big deal. To me, it's first season growing pains, and especially from the pilot, where they seem to be incredibly fixated. And that is the point of the Captain Pike years, is in the pilot, the cage that became the 2-part original series episode, The Menagerie. And on the one hand, I think that's great. I love it. I'm very happy that that's the way it is. But in terms of that, they're fixating on that period. But to fixate on the smile, I don't know. I think it was just they hadn't figured out the Spock character. There was number 1, who is represented now by Rebecca Romijn, and also Ethan Peck. Oh, hilarious! All right, Shelly's back, but eventually. So excellent. There she is. She's upside down, but she's great.
Hey, listen.
Hey, buddy.
This was all planned.
No.
This was all planned. I wasn't happy with the shot. I switched to John. I'm sorry. I had to switch to my phone.
Oh, it's totally cool, buddy.
Apologies. My computer just completely crashed, and I've been having trouble with it.
It's all good, buddy. And honestly, it happened to me when I was talking to Phil Lamar, and I had to do the same thing. So don't even sweat it.
Oh my God,
yeah.
Phil Lamar, at least he probably had like a good joke or story,
Well, he was fine. I crashed, so I had to come back, and literally everything that's happened to you happened to me. So I love this. This is fantastic. So
such drama for a Friday night. I'm trying to find a few things just to kind of raise the camera a little bit.
Okay, buddy. You're upside down right now, so if you could
serious?
So if you turn the phone around. There you go. Now you're sideways.
I really wanted to be upside down.
This is like a fun house. This is great. Now you're sideways.
Very interesting. Am I? Okay.
Yeah, you're killing. There we go. Woo.
No?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Oh,
that's awesome. No, you're good, buddy.
Embarrassing.
Not at all. Seriously, buddy. Don't even sweat it.
All right.
Nothing phases me. Oming was talking to me. He and Taki and their cat kept walking in the shot, and I had no. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I don't care. It's fine. It's life. It's all good." Look at that, man. And now I can see above your poster some of the frame stuff you have, and I can't really make it out, but you could tell me some of the awesome art that you have behind yourself as well.
Oh, these are all shots of our titles from Black Crown. That was exciting. Those 3 years were probably the best years that I think Philip and I had in comics. There was nothing like it. Of course, I'm sure you loved the imprint because it was music and comics. So
absolutely, I did. Yes.
Our 2 favorite things.
Indeed.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna just show you quickly around here, and also you might want to just take a look at some of the music posters.
Nice Oasis. I saw that. That's fantastic. You're killing me, Shel. In the best way.
I changed my entire house just for you. Just for this show.
I don't believe you because obviously you did not rush out and buy that amazing dress. So I think it's excellent. Man, and
I
another
have
thing,
had I have had this dress for about 20 years.
that's outstanding. Well, that honestly, and this is why I'm bummed that we're in different cities and I never got a chance to do a drink up for Black Crown or anything because I
I
know you were doing
know
those and that's hilarious.
that would have been fun.
Yeah. I know you did one when I think when we were both in New York, but man, New York just sucks the life out of me and I'm getting
It
old.
does.
So yeah, at the
No,
end of the count, it's like, I just want to go home.
I know. Those shows were brutal, but now we don't have shows. I mean, that's quite a
Yeah.
bummer.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy. Yeah, honestly, and none of us know, Shell, but seriously, like this has been kind of a running conversation. Here, I'll pull
Yeah.
us back because that'll be a better shot. There we go.
Cool.
I really like. It's okay. What do you think? I mean, the store experience is going to be so different when
Yeah.
when things get air quotes normal again. So that's so funny right now. You're the light behind you. It's actually like I'm being interrogated in a cop show.
Listen, you kind of are. You tricked me into this whole interview. I mean, people are going to think that I've been planning this for weeks. You called me up about 2 hours ago and you're like, yeah, we're talking, right? We're talking. So yeah, this is an interrogation. Hey, look, my whole feeling about comics, John, is whatever. If you love comics and you're a lifer, just make comics. You'll find a way.
Yes. Yes.
I refuse to get all stressed out about it or bent out of shape. You just have to find your tribe, people that like to make the kinds of comics you like to make. Unlike you, I don't like superheroes, so I prefer making comics, like that are more of an indie style. But just get it done. Just continue to create.
I'm with you. Here, a good question right now from Sean. What do you consider to be the best platforms, resources for independent creators to get their work seen?
That it's a great question because this generation is probably the luckiest in terms of getting their work out in the public eye. I mean, you've got so much social media, and if you're smart about it, you can really get your art out there fast. I mean, God, John, I'm sure you remember back in the day, in the 90s, the early 90s, you were lucky if you got to talk to an editor at a convention. I mean, you either had to have some connections and wait in line, submit your work. I mean, it was really difficult. There's no excuse for this generation of artists and writers who want to create.
Yep.
There are many platforms. I think the digital platform Gumroad is terrific. Any editor who is working right now should be looking at all of those types of sites always. There's so much raw talent out there, and if they're good, if they're editors who actually know how to art direct and know how to get the best out of talent, then they can help somebody start their career.
Tell me about Gumroad because I don't know that platform.
I'm new to it as well, and this project is actually quite cool, and it's really my first time working on it. But what I like about it is that it's pay what you want.
Like Panel Syndicate. That's great.
Yeah. And we have two editors in our group, Elizabeth Bree and Megan Brown, who are co-editing The Basement and Insider Art.
Okay.
And they're the ones who have experience with Gumroad. And, they're the ingenues on the book. And they've been a little bit out of control. But we thought, what the hell? Let's just go with it. They're the youngsters. Let's see what happens. So they're taking us to Gumroad. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to call Chris Ryle and get them both fired.
So, you and the two of them are three of the editors, and you said there's several more. So, yeah, tell me more about the other editors.
Well, we have Chrissy Williams, who you probably know from Wicked and Divine.
Oh, yeah, sure.
To Kieran Gillen, so she edits quite a bit of his work, and she's also a poet, and she edits a poetry journal. Yes, she is doing tremendous work. She has The Bedroom. I guarantee you it's all ages. I can't even make a joke about it. I mean, there are such cool things that she has crafted for the bedroom, but I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth. We've got Chris Simon, who is editing the kitchen.
Cool.
So of course you're going to get some great recipes, but you're also going to get some kitchen caper stories. She's doing a tremendous job. We've got Mariah Huner, whose name you might recall from Vertigo because she was my assistant editor and then eventually an associate editor there. She worked with me on Fables and on some Sandman projects over the years. She has the attic. So she's
Okay.
going to be dealing with a lot of creepy things, a lot of black and white stories
Cool.
in her section. And we have Nicole Boos, who is doing the bathroom. So, John, if you felt like you needed to trim your bangs,
I did.
okay, well, maybe you want to try again. We've got a story for you.
Shell, I trimmed my bangs, and seriously, and you can relate because it's like, hey, I'm talking to Ed Brubaker, check it out. Hey, I'm talking to Chip Zdarsky, check it out. And a few thousand people might see it. I cut my bangs. 13,000 people saw my haircut. And I'm like,
I love it.
yeah, that's like a cat playing with itself kind of reaction. I think I'm like, okay, I guess,
Just give me like the 2-minute, like, blow by blow tutorial. Did you stick a bowl on your head? Like, what did you do? How did you do it?
Well, literally, and I assume from my hairdresser and the way the hair grew, it was like from here, literally like almost all the way down to my nose. So I'd come out of the shower and literally could not see. So I'm like, all right, this is because I'm like, I'll let my hair grow. I'll get back to my 80s length. I've been posting on Facebook great Illinois State photos of myself from the 80s and my giant Mo Howard hair. So I'm
Nice.
cool, and I got a good head of hair, so I'm all right. So I literally just cut those bangs and framed it around where you see right now I'm brushing it back. So when I brush it back, it looks like a normal haircut. But like if I were to just comb it down, it would totally be a Mo Howard helmet head.
Whoa.
So that's what I did. And I really was like, all right, I'm taking a chance here, and just with normal scissors.
Wow, just normal scissors. Jeez.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
I am Vidal Sassoon.
Hey, well, if you are, I've got, Mary Quant is behind me. So, again,
I see it.
It's a shame that my computer decided to die.
We can see it.
Okay, so Mary Quant.
We can see the name out behind you, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
You believe me for once.
100%. I always believe you, Shell.
All I'm going to say is that you might want to buy a few extra copies of Insider Art because I do think that you're going to learn a lot from this project.
That's good to know. Absolutely. Yep. No, I need some here. I wasn't sure if I was gonna get a Flowbee or not, so maybe I won't need one.
Well, listen, there's going to be a lot of fun stuff in my section. I've been accused of only doing this project so I could take care of the garage and have a garage band, and I'm not going to admit.
Tell me.
I'm not going to admit whether that's true or not, but I will tell you that there is one kick-ass garage band, and Mags Visaggio is the writer of one of the stories in the garage.
That's great.
And it's amazing. And she brought a tremendous new talent along with her, whose work is just going to knock your Union Jack socks off. Amazing work. She goes by the name of Porcelain Bones, and she is just, fantastic. I think, gonna she's really one of the next big up and coming artists. I'm certain.
That's amazing. Honestly, again, the way, and you did this with Black Crown too. I loved how you put together established creators with newcomers. And, I knew about Teeny because she was working with Tim Seeley on stuff. And Tim's the one who made me aware of Teeny. But then when she and Berto Hernandez did, and I'm blanking, Assassinistas. Yeah, Assassinistas. God, I love that book. And seriously, I'm so happy for Teeny. Great.
Oh, me too.
And she's kicking ass, and I'm so proud of her. Really, that's terrific.
Well, and Teeny has a story in Insider Art as well.
Yep.
She has a story in the living room. I sent you a few.
You did.
Files,
I know. I have. I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Because I do. So, I do have it.
So Teeny
there's a page from Teeny's story.
She's quite a fan of black cats. This story is illustrated by Sarah Stern, who Teeny also brought on board. That's what's great. I love when I reach out to writers and ask them whose work really inspires them. Sometimes I put people together, but often, if there's someone who they think really deserves a shot, I really love to kind of take a chance as well, and that's another great thing about the anthology. Also, I don't know if you feel this way, but I think it's funny that anthologies get such a bad rap, and they get such a bad rap because you'll always be told, oh, the there's some good stories, but some stories aren't good. Anthologies don't sell, whatever. Anthologies are what you make of them. If you've got a theme and you actually give them a purpose and not just randomly toss ideas together, I mean, that's when you have a really powerful collection of what I think comics does best. I mean, this is really a way to study the art form by
Agreed.
looking at all of these different creators. I mean, and again, just with Hey Amateur, my goal was to bring people together from around the world. We're so insular here. It's very easy to say, oh yes, we like all these artists that live in big cities because they're very modern, but there's so many amazing cartoonists in Denmark and Greece and India and South
Yep.
Africa.
Yep.
And so part of my goal with any anthology that I do is to reach far and wide and to really bring different styles of art and different social and political customs too, because that's how we learn from each other.
Totally. And yeah, let's talk more about Hey Amateur. Was it because, and maybe forgive me if I'm confusing the projects, but was it the 1-page 9 panels, or was that different?
Yes. No, that was it.
Okay. Yeah.
That
And I
was
mean,
it.
so you take that traditional 9-panel
Yep.
comic page, and what can you do with just 9 panels?
Exactly. And basically the conceit for that was, make it instructional, but also make it entertaining. And
Yeah.
those are two very different things. It's not as easy as it sounds. You've got a limited space. And I asked Jim Rugg to write an editorial about the 9-panel grid. And there's no one I could have picked to do a better job than Jim.
Jim's awesome. Yes.
Amazing.
Yep.
He currently has a Kickstarter. I think that's like the number 2 best-selling Kickstarter right now, and it's only on day 34.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Killing it right now. Yeah, you have to check it out. He has a new project, but a hell of a guy. And
him and Ed, do you know his podcast with Pisker? Ed
yes,
Pisker?
of
Good
course.
Lord.
Oh my God.
Both of those guys, seriously, I am every time I talk to both of those guys, I get energized. So
me
and
too.
Jim, innovative people, absolutely.
They are old friends as well. They've known each other
Cool.
forever. I was just talking to Jim a couple of days ago about that. But yeah, Ed, also a powerhouse of comics. I think I mentioned this, that what Ed's been doing with superhero comics is interesting to me.
100%.
I have a handful of superhero books. I've got Elektra Assassin because Bill Sienkiewicz, of course. I've got X-Men Grand Design because Ed is telling me everything I need to know about Marvel Comics.
Yes.
And I think Darwin Cook, The New Frontier.
Yeah.
That told me everything I needed to know about DC Comics.
Absolutely. Silver Age DC, 100%. Yep.
Those are the kinds of superhero books I like. And I have to just give a shout out to Bill Willingham because The Elementals was the first superhero comic that made me actually take notice of like what we could do with the very trope of the superhero. It was so much more than just order versus chaos. I mean, his characters had dimension. And I think that's when I realized that this was an industry that I wanted to be a part of.
And I want to acknowledge what Wayne's saying right now. House of Mystery and House of Secrets, The Witching Hour, Tales of the Unexpected, Dark Horse presents amazing anthologies. And you're right. It's all in the hands of the people that are curating the material to make it something great. So I agree with that. But regarding the Elementals and that era, I mean, that 80s black and white boom alongside the music of my college years were, I mean, it really felt hand in hand. And I'll even say, because I kind of checked out of comics when I was dating as a teenager, because it's like, all right, do you want money for comics or you want to date girls? I'm like, well, I want to date girls. So something had to go. But literally in college, Rolling Stone had that great article about Frank Miller in Dark Knight. And that's what brought me back, because I'm like, well,
Wow.
wait a minute. I like Batman, and this sounds really cool. So I walked into my local comic shop down at Illinois State University and found all these great black and white books alongside my favorite
Yep.
DC and Marvel stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And,
Yep.
comics were like either, I think, around $1 or 75 cents at the time. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
breaking the bank. So I could afford
Yep.
girlfriends and comics then. So
And
that's when I came back.
hey, but the $1 million question is, did the girlfriend eventually like comics?
Most did not, but that's okay. But that's
Not
okay.
shocked. Not shocked.
You know, it's funny. A girl that I'm good friends with, and I was telling her, especially we worked together at a rock station in the '90s, and finally she married a guy. We're friends, and we're still friends, and the guy's great too.
Finally, she married a guy. Wait a minute. I hope you aren't going to say that about me one day.
No, of course not.
You said
But no,
finally she married a guy.
No, she married a guy who loved comics. She married a guy who loved comics, and it was so funny because before she met the guy, we were working together at the rock station, and it's when the first X-Men movie came out. And she's a screenwriter and a playwright and an actor. And I told her, I'm like, Susan, I'm like, you've got to watch the X-Men. It's Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart acting their asses off. She's like, yeah, whatever. But then she married her man, Zach. Zach introduced her to Sandman. And she's
Nice.
like, I'm so sorry I wasn't listening to you. I'm like, no, I'm glad you get it now. That's
You were
great.
just like, yes, yes. In the background, you're like doing your dance.
A little
great.
bit.
I love it.
So
Well,
yeah.
We were saying earlier how we both sort of came of age in the 80s at what I'm certain is the best time to be alive,
Amen.
with the best music in the 80s and comics. I was on the other side of the comic book shop. I was buying Love and Rockets in 1987, and I bought Hellblazer and Grendel. Those were my early entries into comics, and just continued from there. I was lucky enough to work at Kamiko back in 1988.
Oh, that's great.
I feel like I must have talked to you about that before, but that
probably.
Was
but go on, yeah.
I was an editorial assistant. I worked for Diana Schutz, who was an incredible boss, really, tough and fair. I know, she was hardcore, but that's, I didn't know from editing comics. I went to college and studied film and video and audio production. So I had hoped it was going to translate, but, without her extreme knowledge, and she is such, she's the very definition of pedantic. And that's what you want to be when you're an editor. And that's what you want from your first boss. So she really showed me the ropes. And of course, I spent a couple of years there and was lucky enough to work with Bill Willingham and Mike Allred. I got to give him one of his first rejection letters, which, was not easy because I actually thought he was brilliant from the beginning. But my bosses said he's good, but let's give him some tips. And we were friends ever since that day. I thought his work had some Bowie-esque appeal. And I asked him in the rejection letter if he liked Bowie, and that was it. We've been friends ever since.
That's excellent. Hey, thank you for putting me in touch with Mike's son, Han, who is making an incredible documentary about Mike. I cannot wait to see that documentary.
Oh, I know. It is unbelievable. That family is just like
Laura.
Super talented. They are writers and artists and musicians and, just tremendously kind people and some of my best friends. I can't say enough wonderful things about them. And the documentary is definitely something that I think people are really going to be interested in. Anyone in comics or anyone into philosophy, I think that it's going to hit people on so many different levels.
Understood. Dean Haspiel checking in with both of us.
Hey, Dean Haspiel, long time no see.
Man, honestly, Shell, I don't know when conventions are going to come back. I'm glad I got to go to some of the cities. And in fact, you mentioned Diana. I saw her in Portland at Rose City last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I'm really glad because, again, God, Diana's been coming on the show for, really since the beginning, my first year. And so it was really great to see her. And, God, Gabriel Bond, Fabio Moon were right next to her and stuff. And it was great seeing those guys.
Yeah,
so, and Dino, I always see Dino in New York and, when he occasionally comes to Chicago.
I have to ask, does Dean still lift up his shirt to the crowd? That was always his thing. Dean, I hope I'm not embarrassing you, but you're not on video right now. John is. And we're not going to ask John to do that.
Please
but John,
don't.
seriously,
Nobody needs to see that.
Dean,
That's all right. Yeah.
Dean, are you still strutting around doing your signature? Yes, we love that about you. Awesome.
So
I like when people don't change.
Oh,
you know what? People don't change. They shouldn't change.
I'm with you, buddy. Wayne, comics in the 70s and 80s took chances to tell interesting stories. Yeah, I think, well, honestly, Shell, I was going to say I agree that maybe that was the ambition, but frankly, I don't think that's gone away. And I think you're one of the editors that's responsible for daring to do different things with comics, honestly.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Truly.
You say that to all your guests, I'm sure.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Right.
Again,
I'll have to go back to your archives and make sure. I'm going to hold you to it.
Hey, seriously, I mean, I've been so relieved that truly, I'm all my guests recently and all what they're doing right now. I am genuinely excited, and I don't have to lie, and I don't have to bullshit as far as being fake excited about stuff. And really, like even the mainstream stuff, like Jeff Johns doing the CW Stargirl show, and he sent me the first 5 episodes. And before we started recording, I'm like, Jeff, this is really good. He's like, oh, thanks. I'm like, no, Jeff, this is really, really good. People are going to get really excited to watch this that are superhero fans, that are Justice Society fans. It's and especially because we're all stuck inside. It's a nice family show. It's really going to be great. It's debuting on Monday on streaming and Tuesday on the CW. But
I'm sorry, I was just distracted by Dean Haspiel because he keeps saying I always strut shirtless.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll take your word for it on Stargirl, but like Dean Haspiel, he just keeps repeating that, and it's just I wanted to acknowledge it.
Of course. It's like subtle commentary and stuff. Hisham Zubi, can Shelly give any insights? This is good, into why Fables ended when it did. It seemed like it ended kind of abruptly with more stories left to tell.
Well, Fables ended because Bill said he was ready to retire. And that was fair enough. We hit 150 issues. Now you say it's rushed. I can't believe you say that. We were one of the longest running creator-owned series, certainly of Vertigo. But I think in general, I think Cerebus, of course, lapped us a few times.
Yep.
But I love telling the story that Bill used to always say, I want to do 76 issues because Neil Gaiman did 75 of Sandman. And we would laugh about that. And don't think for a minute that Neil didn't adore Bill and vice versa. I loved working with both of them, and they both really, truly respected each other. And Neil was pretty much responsible for getting Bill his career at DC, because when I tried to get Karen, my boss, Karen Berger, to approve a series by Bill, she wasn't really familiar with him as a writer. She wasn't really buying it. So I talked to Neil about Bill, and Neil said, oh my God, I love Coventry. We both wanted Bill to do Coventry for Vertigo, but that wasn't going to happen. And Neil said, let's have Bill come in on a Sandman Presents book. And sure enough, he impressed Karen, and Bill pitched me Fables in 01. And 15 years later, it was a bummer when it came to an end, but 150 issues, my God, what an accomplishment.
100%.
And that last issue, I'm not going to brag, but I'm just going to say what it was. Issue 150 was volume 22 of the series. And I think it was the first time that a regular team decided that that they were going to release one issue, but instead of 32 pages, it was 144 pages. And that, I think, should be celebrated. And I was really happy with how Bill wrapped up the series. And I think Mark Buckingham and Steve Lealoha and the many talents that helped us out over the years, we really brought it home in style.
Agreed. Were you also editing like Jack of Fables and things like that as well?
I started
under the Fables umbrella.
I did. Eventually, I would sort of have to hand over some of the books to an assistant. So I started Jack of Fables. In fact, that started. I was on maternity leave in 04 with my son, who is now 15 and a half.
Awesome.
And Bill told me he was going to kill Jack. of the tales. And I was like, you're not going to do that while I'm on maternity leave, because I love the trickster character. And Bill writing a trickster, like, it's just like one of my favorite things. I loved Jack's cadence, and I loved how he handled the character. So instead of killing him, he decided to pitch another monthly series. And so I edited that for a few years, but then passed it to my assistant editor at the time, Angela Ruffino. So she actually, it was still sort of under my purview, but I would often start the series, like Fairest, for instance, when we started the third monthly series. I would edit maybe the first arc and then pass the baton to an assistant or associate. Which was fair because I was always working on so many projects, especially, there was the year that we launched the Minx line, which was the first young adult line for girls, really. It was it was the first imprint for teenage girls. And it was meant to bridge manga fans with just YA fiction readers.
Sure.
And so I was working on that and also working on, 3 or 4 monthly books. So Fables was always my number one. And I like to think that's the one that I'm most associated with. And I'm most proud of that one too, because working with Bill was an experience. And I met him in 1988. I was his last editor on the Elementals. And I don't even think he remembered me after the company went under because I had to chase him around the country to get those last few issues out of him. And I think he thought of me as some pesky little kid, which I was. But fortunately, when we met up again, when he came to a DC party, I think back in maybe the mid 90s, and I thought he was a genius and I wanted to continue working with him. So I stayed in touch and I became a big pest in his life, and it paid off.
Well, man, I'll tell you, I remember, and I don't know if he still does it. And again, unfortunately, conventions are going to on pause right now, but FablesCon even. I mean, my God, he really branched out and really kind of brought other creators in that were kind of in the same realm. And I think that's amazing.
Did you go to FablesCon? I don't recall.
I did not. It was in Minnesota. But I was certainly aware of it. And
it was
many
a
of my
blast.
Did you go?
Oh my God, did I go? You couldn't stop me. I was like, Bill put me to work. I think it was an entire weekend, and I'm pretty sure that Bill handled like all of the celebrity guests and the editorial teams and all the contests. All I can tell you is that there were glamorous writers that came in, like Lauren Bucas, and they had a couple of hours where they were being interviewed. Bill had me working from like 7 a.m. until midnight. I was so exhausted. He had me like running around doing all kinds of things, but what a weekend. We had a blast.
That's awesome. I got to embarrass you, Shel, because I didn't expect this to happen, but I was talking to Brubaker a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me, he was telling me how you really helped him break in the mainstream and everything because you loved Low Life and his independent books.
Well, that's partially true. I hope Ed gave Lou Stathis some props too. Did he mention?
He has before. He has in the past.
Yeah, because I think the truth about Ed is that his navel gazing work was just so much fun. It was the kind of stuff that you couldn't help but want to read more. Because it was just I felt like he really tapped into the just sort of the social environment that we were all experiencing at that time, in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And I thought he was a really cool guy as well. And so I think Lou Stathis was the one who actually hired him to do Prez with Eric Shanower.
Okay. Yeah.
And when Lou wasn't working for a while, I knew I wanted to work with Ed as well. So he pitched me Scene of the Crime. And Michael Lark was someone who was doing a shade fill-in for me.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that he really loved Michael's work, and they were, wow, from the get-go, they clicked.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I think Sean Phillips was inking Michael Lark, and that's how Sean and Ed met through Scene of the Crime. So those guys owe me probably a new car, maybe. at least a bottle of champagne.
I'm with you. Or a good box set or something like that, at
A
least,
good box set. Wait, speaking of box sets.
Oh, you got to show it, Shell. Absolutely, please.
I know.
Here,
I'm gonna have to show it later, though. It's
okay.
I think my son actually.
Did he snag it?
While my computer died, I think my son came in and stole my Clash sound system box set. We're gonna need a whole hour and a half just to talk about that. And
you were worried. You were worried that we couldn't fill an hour and a half. Now we're only at 50 minutes so far of our talk, but this is why I was very confident, Shell, because we hang out and we just start going. And there's a million. Honestly, 90 minutes isn't enough. And I'm glad we're talking about insider art and we're talking about hey amateur. But really, I mean, as the Englishman in San Diego said, looking forward to the definitive Shelley Bond documentary autobiography. So fire it up, lady. Let's go.
Hey,
all
right. You get me a better cameraman, and I'm there. Or
I understand.
Person, I should say.
Right now,
I really got. I know. Right now, we're like in the dark here.
Well, I like it. It's like backlighting. It's like you're a 60 Minutes informant. We decided to keep her identity anonymous for the purposes of this interview. So tell us about the drug deal, Shell. Oh, I'm sorry,
exactly.
Miss X.
Well, there's a reason why I'm wearing sunglasses, but we really shouldn't go into it right now.
Okay.
I don't want to incriminate anybody.
And Shell, once again, because like I said in the 80s, Dark Knight and that coverage and Watchmen and stuff brought me back, and I really did. I enjoyed a lot of the black and white, alternate comics that were coming out as well, and the titles you mentioned, among others. But also, in the late 90s, it was Scene of the Crime and Powers with Bendis and Oming, and
Terminal City. What about Terminal City? Was that?
I have to confess, I did not read Terminal City back in the day. I didn't read Transmet back in the day.
I think we're gonna have to disconnect.
I know. I'm sorry. But it was like, again, comics had expanded again because the boom and the bust of the black and white 80s and stuff, kind of happened, and then of course the speculative market almost hurt comics. But and then honestly, Shell, how many times have we heard comics are dying? And really, people have approached me with their documentaries that they were planning, and we got to save comics. It's like comics doesn't need saving. Comics is fine. Comics will be fine. Everything's good. I mean, and it'll like Henry had earlier said, and like you said, comics will find a way even through this mess to continue.
Always.
Yeah.
Listen, zines are more popular now and over the past 2 years than they've been in decades. Just get it done. I'm so tired of people getting so precious and pretentious about it. Look, I am the first person to say I'll take a spot varnished hardcover. No problem. I like when my books, print beautifully, but I also like the rough Xeroxed Ben-Day dots in my face. There's so much interesting art out there right now, and just stylistically, a blending of old and new styles. And God, that's how you innovate.
Totally.
You don't want to just look around and repeat something that you see on the shelves. Go for broke. Go bigger and better.
I love the independent scene here in Chicago. We've had the Cake Festival for the last few years, and it's really become it's held its own. And again, all the conventions are on pause, but that was always one of my favorite shows to go to and get exposed to a lot of mini comics and zines and things like that. Is that
also in? Oh, sorry. Is that also in conjunction with the Cake animation?
I don't believe so.
Okay, because there's some really great experimental animation that's part of like a Cake program that's blowing my mind. I wouldn't be surprised if they were somehow affiliated.
Let's see. Comics retail and distribution. That's a whole other ball game. All right, thank you, Englishman. And here, Wayne. Now, and I forgot. Of course. Now you see, I am a Dean Motter fan because I was a massive Mr. X fan.
Okay.
And now I am, and now that thank you for connecting the dots, the Ben-Day dots for me, Wayne, because I had forgotten that Terminal City was another Dean Motter book. And I did read that. I'm a Dean Motter guy. Absolutely. I'd love to talk to Dean Motter.
I'm going to hook you up with Terminal City and Aerial Graffiti, because those were also two series that I did at Vertigo in the mid 90s that I think are part of my best of collections, editorial high points. Working with Dean and Michael was incredible. I mean, just phenomenal, both of them phenomenal artists and designers and draftsmen. Incredible work.
I love, like I said, I was a massive Mr. X fan, so I'm sure I would love Terminal City. And from a writing standpoint, or no, did he draw it? No, he wrote it.
Well,
That Prisoner sequel from the 80s.
yes.
God
Yeah.
damn. I'm sure you're a Prisoner person.
I am.
Atta girl.
Of
course you are.
Obviously not as like ardent as you are, because I can see you sweating about it over there. But good stuff. And I remember buying The Prisoner. I remember that format, that prestige format, was impressive back in the day.
Yes, indeed. Started with The Dark Knight, obviously, back in the mid-80s.
did.
In fact, Darwin, man, I'm so bummed because I had many conversations with Darwin always after hours. Never was able to get him on the podcast. But I remember when
I'm shocked you couldn't get him on the podcast.
Well, it was just scheduling, and he was terrific. He was really always incredibly kind, and we had great conversations. And I remember one of my initial meetings when New Frontier was coming out, and he was really pissed because the issues were floppies, for lack of a better description. And he was really mad because he wanted them to be, if they were 48 pages, I forget how long they were, but he wanted them in like priced at the prestige format price, and assumed that they would do them like in that Dark Knight prestige format. And instead they were just really thick flop. Maybe they were 64 pages, but yeah, I know he was like, can you believe that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. It's beautiful. And he goes, yeah, but it should look good. I mean, the issues I know it's going to be collected, but it should look better. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. Jesus. And by the way, again, another conversation with Ed that we had, I'm so excited that he is contributing new material for the second volume of the Parker Martini edition that IDW is putting together. Really excited about that. Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't know about that.
There you go.
I will say it was pretty phenomenal for Darwin and Gilbert Hernandez to work together. That was part of one of my final books for Vertigo. They did a book called The Twilight Children. Did you hear about that one?
I remember. Yes, I'm aware of The Twilight Children. I did not read it, but I'm aware of The Twilight Children.
Well, that's another one that I'm going to have to dig through my garage to find for you, but you're worth it.
You're awesome, Shell.
Especially if you fix my video in the final. If you fix my video, I'm going to get you some free comics. But the greatest thing in the world was when I was talking to Darwin. I always wanted to work with him, and Darwin and Mike Allred were going to do a book with me for years, and it just didn't happen for scheduling reasons. And I said to Darwin, why don't you just write and draw something for Vertigo? And he said, no, I really don't want to do that. I would really like to draw someone's work. And I'm like, well, who do you want to work with? And he said, my dream is to work with Gilbert Hernandez. And I'm like, wow, give me 5 minutes. And I literally put him on hold. And because Gilbert Hernandez is one of my favorite people in comics, and I've loved working with him since 1999. And I was certain that he would be up for it. And so I was just like, can you hold, please? Bringing those two together to create a mini series on paper was just the best. And I'm just pausing because I can't believe Darwin has been gone for 4 years, and it was the 4-year anniversary just a week ago, I think. Yeah. And what a tremendous loss for comics. What a tremendous person and artist. Just another person gone too soon, but wow, did he contribute? Did he make our industry a better place?
No question. No, beautiful draftsman and a really great guy. And like I said, our after hours conversations or in between panels and stuff, he was always a sweetheart. And really, And so it's a great loss. And truly, I maybe a lot of people didn't know how sick he was until it was near the end. Because I even remember talking to Ted Adams at IDW and going, God, I'm really looking forward to more Parker adaptations. And he was kind of awkward in his answer. And I guess he obviously knew. And I couldn't read between the lines then. And then we all heard, the sad news. So it's a great loss. He was wonderful. He really was. So, and really, I'm glad you mentioned the Hernandez brothers. And I know, again, you did a lot of work with Gilbert. And did you ever work with Jaime as well?
I never really worked with him. I know that he did a cover for Transmet, a book you never read. Not trying to rub that in, but
no, it's all good.
You know, it's funny. I never worked with Jaime. There was a time where, yeah, it was always Gilbert. You know, I have to
Okay.
confess that Gilbert's stories blew me away when I got into Love and Rockets. And yeah, he's the one I always worked with on many projects over the years. From Sloth, which was an original graphic novel, to a book called Yeah, which Peter Bagg wrote, that
Loves.
Gilbert drew.
Love Peter Bagg.
To
Yeah.
Assassinistas, which you already mentioned with Teenie Howard. I mean,
Absolutely.
Gilbert is solid. And Gilbert,
Yeah.
by the way, would totally like lap us 50 times with his music knowledge.
Oh, that's
70s
great.
and 80s. He is like, you know, the powerhouse of knowledge of music, especially Bowie. So
Outstanding.
we have had, you should get him on your show.
I was
We
going to
have
say, Shell, you're going to have to
house.
help make the love connection so I can have Gilbert on.
I
It would be an
might.
honor. It would be an honor to talk to
I
Gilbert.
might. You really got to work on the lighting on my video for that, though.
You know, I don't know if you kill that bright light behind you, it might look better. I'm not sure. But again, it's if you want to be
I'm
anonymous.
Honestly, I'm only teasing. I really am not an egoist at all. I don't care.
It made no difference,
good.
but it's okay. I still like it.
I only had, you know, my quarantine makeup crew has been here for like 3 days.
You look fantastic,
I'm
buddy.
gonna send
Seriously.
you my bill. I'm sending you my bill, John.
I will take it. Seriously, buddy. And then forgive me if this sounds, you know, like guy talking to a girl, but I'm like, hey, video, what's the problem? And other women that have been on are like, okay, I guess I'll have to put makeup on for this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an asshole. I'm sorry. I'm like, God, I don't want to like put anybody out for the convenience of doing video, but I'm trying to grow the video audience. So
Yeah,
there you go.
well.
There she is. Yay.
I can do jazz hands for you. We haven't even talked about tap dancing yet. Is it true that you tap danced in college?
No, that's just a lie. That's just a rumor.
Oh,
I did do stand up in college.
That was me. Oh, stand up. That
did,
doesn't surprise me.
Oh, you're sweet. You know what? Honestly, I got into radio hoping that the comedy albums that were made by all the audio sketch comedians, like the Frantics from Canada and Firesign Theater and the Credibility Gap and the Committee and all those things, I'm like, you know, they were like, and their real sweet spot was the 70s, but the Frantics were the 80s. But yeah, it was like when I was in school, I'm like, oh, this will be great, you know, and audio is fun, and I could do that on the air. And we had groups in Chicago that came out of Second City that were working at the rock station that I ended up working at in the 90s. But by the time I got out of school, it had all dried up. So I worked in sports, and I was able to do parody songs and imitations and things like that. So I got a little bit of it.
Check, please. John just started talking about sports.
Tell me about tap dancing in college. What did you do? I had no idea.
No, I'm not going to talk about tap dancing, but John, I'm going to ask you to just carry on yourself for a moment.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Okay, buddy. Yeah, absolutely, Shell. You're lovely for doing this as long as you've been doing it. That's great. So
I'm going to be right back.
Okay, buddy. That's fine. So yeah, people,
you know, it a lot easier to communicate.
Okay, it's all good. No problem. Are you plugging in your microphone?
No, not that. But I thought maybe we could do. My son brought over his tripod.
Oh, great.
So
okay, yeah, no problem. It's cool.
Anyway, you want to take my camera off for a minute?
Oh, sure. I'd be happy to, buddy. Here we go.
And then I'll get it all set up, and then we'll be in a.
Oops. Okay, that's fine. No problem. Shell will be back as she's adjusting. That's fine. Wayne, thank you. Mark Aswith and Dean Motter wrote the Prisoner book. Shattered Images, everybody. Dean drew it. So that's good to know. And here an Englishman. I will save that question for when Shell gets back. And is there anything else here? Oh, here we go. Gore Vidal. Mr. X was great. I like the Game and McKean short story. McKean acknowledged that the vision he had in mind for the book, or that was the vision in mind. Bill Sienkiewicz drew some pages for a story that wasn't completed. Interesting. And Alex Chung, I bought Terminal City because of this interview. It's half off at Comixology. That's great to hear. And Gore Vidal, I met D. Motters acknowledged that Greenman's and McKean's story was the vision he had in mind for Mr. X. That's awesome. Shell is still adjusting, so let's see what else. Seriously, man, isn't she great? I'm saying this, and I'm sure she can hear me right now, but she's wonderful for doing this. She's a great trooper. And she gives a damn, and I'm happy to help her promote Insider Art, which will be coming soon, and also Hey Amateur, another great anthology that she's doing. So the kid's got it going on. I'm very proud of her. Here, let's see. Hey John, any quick thoughts on the new Star Trek show? Oh, that's funny, Elias. Actually, somebody else asked me that as well. I'm optimistic because I think Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine were fantastic on Discovery season 2. I like them in their short treks. So I remain optimistic. I hope. I mean, again, I'm not crazy about. I had my problems with Picard. I had my problems with Discovery. All that said, I am happy to welcome a new Star Trek show, and I'm hoping for the best because being a Star Trek fan, I'm happy that new Star Trek shows are on the air and that CBS is doing what they can to bring the franchise back and do a lot of interesting things. I'm excited for Lower Decks. I'm excited for the Nickelodeon show that my buddies, the Benson sisters, were working on. So I think it's all cool. All right, Shell is close to adjusting. So let's see what else. Oh, Kill Your Boyfriend, Phil Druitt, written by Grant Morrison. Did she have input on it? We'll have to find out when Shelly is adjusted, and we'll find out. But seriously, everybody, great feedback, and I'm so glad that you're all here enjoying the show. Looks like Shell is okay. Are you good, buddy?
We're close.
Okay, you look
so.
good.
Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah, turn that. Nah, you don't need that light. The other light was fine.
Okay.
I promise.
Thank you to the stage crew at Casa Bond. Would you believe that Philip was upstairs watching the interview and was too lazy to come downstairs to help me?
Well, you guys have been together for a while, and it's like, yeah, she's got it. That's fine.
Right? Not so much.
Hi, Philip.
Oh, he's gone.
Well, I'm sure he's watching at least, or maybe not. Maybe he's turned us off and put Rick and Morty on or something. I understand.
Probably. Anyway, back to you, John.
Not at all. Already in progress. Yes.
Were you saying nasty things about me, or
I was saying lovely things about you. Do not kid yourself. Absolutely. Here, look at what Eva wrote. Shelley Bond is basically a goddess. What an icon. One of my professional heroes. Dean's always a giant. Oh, it's my pleasure, Eva. I'm happy to share this stuff. Absolutely. So great people. Again, listen, I love comics, and I love all different kinds of comics. And I've always respected, before we even met, I've always respected Shelley's taste in the stuff that she's edited. So I'm not surprised. Oh, thank you, Mario. Poor Marty Pasco. I don't know if you ever had the chance to meet him.
I knew Marty. Yes, we were at DC around the same time. Yeah, nice guy. Didn't really work with him, but nice person. And yeah, it was really a shame. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Shock. It was a real shock. Yeah. And I really. Old. Yeah, and I had him on early on, and over the years we really became good friends.
Oh, wow! Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, and he's one of the Bronze Age guys that I'm like, hey, you are great, and I don't understand why more people aren't talking about you. And he was kind of shy and really wasn't up for tooting his own horn in terms of what he did, not only in comics but in regular live action TV and animation.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and as I got to know him, I'm like, Marty, you got a million stories. Let's talk. So it was great. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So here, a question. Kill Your Boyfriend, Phil Druitt, written by Grant Morrison. Did Shelley have any input on it?
Actually, Shelley had no input on that book at all because I barely knew that Philip existed at that point. That's kind of a lie. Grant and Philip were working on Kill Your Boyfriend, I believe in 93, 94. Philip and Glenn Dillon were roommates. Glenn Dillon is Steve Dillon's younger brother.
Okay.
And they actually did a fill-in issue of Shade the Changing Man right when I started at Vertigo in the winter of 92. And that's when I first fell in love with Philip's artwork. I fell in love with the artwork before the artist himself. And then I married my favorite artist.
Awesome.
But I had nothing to do with Kill Your Boyfriend. I loved it. I thought Philip was a genius. I thought he was an amazing storyteller, but I had absolutely no input in that book whatsoever. In fact, it was edited in England. The editor of that book was Art Young, and he lived in London. I will never forgive him for single-handedly closing the London office, the Vertigo London office, because
Ah.
when I came to Vertigo, I thought for sure in 2 years that place would be mine. All I ever wanted was to move to London and meet a British guy and live and work in London. So instead, I had to trick a British artist who lived in Worthing to marry me. And then he wanted to live in New York. And then when we moved out to California, he fell in love with California.
That's great.
So one day, London.
That's hilarious.
I know.
You know, I was, and I can say it now because the people that were considering me are no longer there. But for a moment, IDW was considering me in a marketing capacity. I know.
Are you kidding me?
I was
Okay,
honestly, Shell, I was going to call you. I really was going to call you and say.
How long ago are we talking? Like
couple years.
When Black Crown was, we could have used you. That would have been great.
You know, I got to be honest. I'm a broadcaster. I'm not a good marketer. I mean, I love this stuff, but if I had to write press releases for other people and book,
great. You'd be great.
My heart wouldn't be in it, Shell. I think I'm too much of a broadcaster performer. I mean, this is where my ego got in the way, I think.
I'm disappointed to hear that because we could have used you. I think together we could have really made something of Black Crown. I really do.
Buddy, I swear I was so rooting for you because, again, the body of work you did at Vertigo and the titles that you introduced at Black Crown. And I was happy to talk to, Milligan about it and Teeny, and really was looking forward to more. All right, what cover have you got there?
Oh, just a little something called Eve Stranger by Philip Bond and David Barnett.
There you go. Absolutely. Very good. Good stuff, Maynard. I like it. Oh, you're killing me. That's fantastic. I know, buddy. And then, but again, so Black Crown, unfortunately folds and, doesn't stop you. You're still going. You're still innovating.
And the books live on. That's the beauty of comics. You know what? You can't take it with you. You can't let it get you down. There's so many people that I've known over the years, 30 years in comics, so many people who, for whatever reason, left the company or were fired from the company or were eliminated from the company for various reasons, ethical or otherwise unethical, and they're still hiding under the bed. Life is so short. People like that, forget them. You got to stay focused and move forward. I mean, that's how that's how I was raised, to be fearless, to not be bothered. My dad always said, just go with your gut and follow your dreams and work on things that you believe in, make a difference, and don't let anybody get you down. As long as you're not hurting someone or stealing from someone, get it done, get the job done, stay focused.
You're, reciting my edict as well, my work edict, because people are like, are you okay? Because I lost the radio gig at the beginning of April. I'm one of those guys that people got downsized. Yeah, I was
bummed to hear that. Your Patreon, my God, hello.
Thank you, by the way, Shell. If I didn't thank you already, right? Thank you for joining. Really.
Thank you with champagne in person someday when you're famous.
It'll be my pleasure. Here's hoping. Absolutely. But no, it's true. I mean, honestly, it's like Word Balloon has been much more satisfying an experience for me than broadcasting has been literally for the last 10 years. And very slowly, I've gotten more opportunities even in broadcasting. I mean, I did a TV show for Discovery called Prophets of Science Fiction, where I was one of the talking heads. And they didn't hire me for my radio work. They hired me for this. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was nice. No, it was great. It was a lot of fun. Fraction was on it too. I'm trying to think of other comic book people that were on it. I think me and Fraction were the only comic book people. But yeah, it was basically talking about great science fiction authors whose fiction inspired real science. Mm-hmm. So, we did an episode about Asimov. We did an episode about, Mary Shelley. And, Frankenstein being kind of the original sci-fi story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really cool.
Go women.
Yeah, damn straight. Hell yeah. Absolutely. So, and that's nice. Now, Philip and Englishman have been saying hello to each other, so that's nice. See, Philip's still watching. He gives a damn.
I'm not sure he does. I think he probably thinks he's tuning into a different show, honestly. He's so tired of hearing me, talk about, comics, my life in comics. I'm working on my memoir, stroke Romana Clay. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to be reviewing. It's a tough thing, but I've been working on it. It's called Filth and Grammar, and I've been working on it on and off for a few years.
That's great.
It's a blast.
Well, and honestly, the era that you've worked in, including now, I think there's a lot of stories. And this is why I love what Chaikin's doing with Hey Kids Comics. And obviously he's reaching back prior to his time and everything. But no, I'm so glad you're doing that, Shell. I thought the person who asked earlier about your autobiography, I thought they were just like, oh no, she should tell her story. And I'm like, yes, so I'm so glad you're doing it for real.
Well, it's something that I've been working on for a while. When I left DC, I was still under contract. So I really couldn't procure new work. So I thought it was a really good time to, like, put my money where my mouth is. I've been, as an editor, you spew lots of advice to writers and artists to motivate them and encourage them to put their guts on the page. So I challenged myself to start it. And I pitched Black Crown to Chris Ryle at the same time. I was just really getting into the meat of, like, the proposal. And he hired me to do Black Crown. So I kind of had to put it aside. Sure. And since probably last winter, I've been back at it.
That's great.
Right now, it's it's sort of part single illustration and prose and part short stories. Each chapter is kind of structured in a way so that it has like a really good rhythm. And I'm bringing lots of artists that I worked with over the years in. I'm begging them or asking them nicely or bribing them with champagne to do a spot illustration or a short story. And I'm also bringing in some new people because, like I said, if I don't have my own imprint, it's not going to stop me from working with some of these terrific young cartoonists. And so I'll find a way. And if that means I have to actually pay them to, like, do a couple of pages for a memoir proposal, then that's fine. I'll sell the contents in my garage, basically. Whatever it takes.
I'm so glad you're doing that. Seriously. So do you want to get it done and then pitch it? Is that the plan?
Well, I have I have a couple of chapters done. And so I think it's best, to be really sure it's the story I want to tell. Growing up in the 90s through the comic book industry was unlike any other time. I mean, to me, I feel so lucky that I had the opportunity. I worked my ass off. People that say, they work hard climbing the ladder. Well, yeah, it's tireless and sometimes it's a thankless job, especially when you're a woman in a male-dominated industry. And there are great times and then were very frustrating times, but it was glamorous and it was amazing. And to be able to say that I worked with some of these tremendous talents and people, there are so many great people in comics I feel lucky to know. And some of them, I can live without. Some of them, like any industry, you sometimes give too much of yourself only to get kicked in the teeth. It's part of growing up. It's part of working your way up the ladder in a corporation, frankly. But 23 and a half years in corporate comics was plenty. And I feel like I'm back now. I'm back to my indie roots, and that's where I'm most comfortable, doing these crazy anthologies and actually, doing books that have vision and purpose that don't need to be watered down, like with art by committee. There's nothing worse than that. And I can tell you that for the books I put together over the past few years, including the Black Crown books, there were 10 in 3 years, believe it or not.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You have a catalog. And so you can't be depressed about that. I've got to give props for Philip, since he's probably listening, or he's drunk. I'm not sure. He might be listening while he's drinking. But Philip was as integral to Black Crown as I was, even though it was sort of touted as my imprint. He became the creative director. And that's not how it was at the start. We knew he wanted to do a series, but we had no idea that he was actually going to be the production and design side. And it was really his vision too. We have a very similar graphic design aesthetic, but by the end, we were not only editing and art directing the books, but we were also assembling the books. And I was starting to letter as well during the last year.
Wow.
Just to save money and also to save people a lot of aggravation. You know, the letterers at IDW had plenty of books to work on. And so it was a lot easier for me to do my own lettering and my own corrections than to have to bug them back and forth. So just props to Philip for his tremendous work across the board on Black Crown.
And giving it an impressive logo too. I mean,
you beat me to the punch.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
that logo
it's
is
a great
everywhere.
logo.
It's on my tape dispenser now. My going line, which really aggravates Philip, I'm going to say it anyway because I'm not sure I ever said it to you, John. But when I asked Philip to design the logo for Black Crown, he did it in the first take, which doesn't happen for a logo designer ever. And he just completely nailed it. And all I said to Philip was, if the name of the imprint is Black Crown, obviously we need a black crown. But I want it to be so arresting. I want it to be as iconic as the Rolling Stones tongue logo. And I want Andy Warhol to be so jealous that he'll crawl his way out of the grave to appropriate it. And that's what happens.
Well, again, you guys being together and stuff, I'm glad that, he gets you. And I think that's, probably there was some sort of symbiotic kind of thing of, oh, I know what she wants. And that's awesome, man. And really, Philip, we'll have to have a conversation at some point. That's terrific, man. It'd be a pleasure, truly.
Definitely. And if you have Philip on your show, I'm going to set up his camera shot for him. And I'm going to make sure he wears glasses and he gets to look as ridiculous as I do.
I was going to say he's got to wear the dress, obviously, as well.
He might. Yeah, actually, he has he's a similar tie.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
Might be able to get him in a new wave tie.
You're killing me. Well, again, we grew up during that period of IRS records and,
yes.
that wonderful music time. Should we transition to our music quiz?
We shall. I have a prize. I have a prize for whoever wins our lightning round. I have a prize. Don, have you tried these?
No, what is it?
Tried these? These are Coke Tic Tacs.
No. Oh, God, I'm a massive Coca-Cola fan. Oh, my God.
Well, I hope you studied up on your 80s music.
Well, I have a feeling that I won't do as well as you will likely do on my list of songs.
I might fail on purpose. Just so you can have one tonight. Just so you can have your own Coca-Cola Tic Tac pack.
Are they genuine tasting? Do they really taste like Coke?
They do. They're not
that's
minty
great.
At all. They're not minty at all. I don't recommend eating them all in one sitting, though. So
sure.
If you win, promise me that you won't eat them all in one sitting. It's like with Pop Rocks, remember? You were always afraid that your stomach was going to blow up if you ate that whole pack.
That's awesome. No, I don't. I won't. And honestly, I'm trying to watch my sugar because I really do want to drop some serious weight. And so I've been I treat myself monthly with a Coke, basically, because I really did grow up on Coca-Cola and I do love it. But yeah, I would definitely eat them sparingly. So that's good.
Okay. As long as we're clear about that.
Understood. Well, again, our love for comics in the 80s and again, our love for music. And we did grow up in the best decade because it really was exciting when music video and the cool alternate stuff that was coming out. Like we were saying earlier, I don't know if we were on the air or not when you're like, MTV was showing Asia in heat of the moment. It was like, yeah, all right, whatever. Right. And we were sticking around for the Madness songs and, stuff like that.
And all the British music that came over. And I think we also started talking about Night Flight.
Yes.
I think Night Flight was something that, I grew up outside of Philadelphia and I would sneak out of my bedroom and go up to our attic where we had a black and white TV and I would watch Night Flight. And that's where I actually discovered so many bands that I wouldn't have heard of if it wasn't for that show. And I used to love when they would do like the Politics of Dancing and New Wave, Future Stars. And I knew that was the kind of music that really spoke to me, and that was going to be a part of my life.
I completely agree with you, and that's hilarious. And now why am I blanking on who did the Politics of Dancing? Shame on me. Help me.
Well, they used to have those wonderful theme shows, and in fact, I know that Night Flight is still available now. I know that you can actually subscribe to it. I've been tempted. Been a little strapped for cash like everyone, it's been a rough time, I think, the past year or so, but God, I feel like, there's so much out there for people to devour, just in terms of music and comics, and what a combination. I always think that, like, people that I'm always excited when I meet people like that are into music who don't really know that there are comics that are super cool that they would dig, and vice versa. People that are into comics that really might not have heard of bands like Moloko, or some of the more obscure British bands that we might like.
Well, you were educating me during Black Crown with some of those bands as well.
Oh, cool. That you must be speaking about Cud in particular.
And I was speaking about Cud in particular. That's fantastic that you introduced me to Cud. Yes.
An incredible band. Another tremendously talented writer, artist, bass player, Will Potter, who may or may not be listening right now, but I'm sure he will look for this, because he's just a tremendous fan of music and comics. And he actually met Philip, I think, back in '89 when
Wow.
Deadline magazine was running. Philip did some artwork for Cud for their album Aquarius, and Philip was the one who introduced me to the band, and we invited them into Black Crown so they could have their own comic book series within our Black Crown Quarterly.
That's outstanding. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now, Wayne thankfully told me that Reflex, of course, was the Politics of Dancing. Shame on me.
Nice. Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you, Wayne.
Wayne's awesome. Wayne's from Ottawa. He's great. And he got me. Did you ever watch the '90s show? We didn't have it in Chicago, and I don't know if any other city public television affiliates had it. But that Canadian show, Prisoners of Gravity, that Mark Asquith and Rick Green had, it was an amazing video interview show where they would talk to science fiction authors, but they also had Eisner and even Jack Kirby and stuff, and and Frank Miller and Neil and Gaiman and everybody, like, doing these amazing interviews. It's on YouTube, and it's
okay.
And I literally just dropped my audio version of my conversation with Rick Green, the host of it. It very much like Mystery Science Theater in terms of the set. He was on a satellite, supposedly, talking back to Earth. And it also had kind of a Silent Running vibe where he's like, the Earth is destroying itself, so I'll be on this satellite, away from all the problems of the Earth and everything. But that was like the format. But they were just straight up good interviews as opposed to, ranking on cheesy movies and stuff. But it was great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really great.
Oh, it sounds very cool.
All right, let's see. Oh, Philip has, let's see. There we go. There's a whole story of how Cud got into Black Crown, tells Philip. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the whole story. Well, the story is that I went behind Philip's back to get Cud to do their comic for Black Crown. Basically, when I was doing Femme Magnifique, which is another anthology that I'm sure you remember, which was a salute to women, 50.
Absolutely. Yep.
I got a Twitter note from someone named Will Cud, and he said, "Why is your anthology so expensive? I live in England. I can't afford it." And I said to Philip, "I'll bet Will Cud is Will from Cud. Who else could it possibly be?" And he didn't even answer. It was such an inane question. He didn't answer me. And I thought to myself, okay, if I right now tell Philip that I want Will Potter to write a story about the Cud band, Philip is going to tell me I'm crazy and to never do it because it's absolutely ridiculous. So instead of doing that, I wrote to Will and asked Will to pitch me the story, which he did. And it was so good. From one page, on one piece of paper, he pitched me the whole story. I gave it to Philip to read without saying a word. And if you know me at all, I'm terrible at keeping secrets, but I sat there with my sitting on my hands while he read it, hoping that he would say, "I'd like to draw it." And sure enough, it just worked out. So Philip actually drew the story. And yeah, we actually saw Cud play. It was the first time I saw them live in October of last year.
Wow.
And they were tremendous.
That's awesome.
What a great live band. And like rabid fans, like crazy mosh pit, like everybody over 45. Bones were snapping. I could hear bones snapping all around me. It didn't matter. They weren't my bones. I was dancing on a chair, and it was the best.
That's excellent. I know, seriously. I'm with you, buddy. I swear. And that's honestly, that's why, like, Paul Weller used to always come to Chicago, and I'm sure when things get normalized again, I'm sure he'll come back. I'm sure
Wait a
you're
second.
enjoying how many
Okay.
great artists are doing these at-home concerts.
What?
And truly, I'm watching Paul. I'm watching Neil Finn. I'm a massive Neil Finn fan.
Hold on. Did you say Paul Weller?
There's my girl. Absolutely.
All right, here's your trivia question. Who's the artist that did this?
I have no idea. God bless you, please.
Peter Blake.
Oh, wow. Cool. No,
So wait,
Shell,
talking about Paul Weller. How many times have you seen Weller live?
3.
Which tour?
Oh God. I don't remember the album names. But like
What year?
at the Vic in Chicago, which is a great small venue.
What year?
The last time was definitely within the last 10 years. But several times, the other 2 times were in the 90s when I was at XRT. Okay. And it was like, hey, Paul Weller's coming to town. I'm like, you had me at hello. That's I'll be, because that was the great thing. I worked for 9 years at this great rock station. That was really an alternative rock station, XRT. We were a progressive station. And then as alternate, as the format changed to alternate music, we were doing it. And it was like, and I think I was telling this before we started recording, it was like living in a Monkees episode in the best way. Because literally it'd be like, oh, hi, Lyle, love it. Want to play a live song for us? Sure, kids, gather around. And God, I answered the door one Saturday night, and it was Brian Ferry from Roxy Music.
What?
And he's like,
What?
If you're talking about Weller, I'm out.
Oh,
is Philip joining us?
He said if you're talking about Weller, he's out. He was talking about Brian Ferry. I just saw, we saw Roxy Music at their reunion tour in 2000, which was just breathtaking.
Outstanding.
I just saw Brian Ferry when he was at the Greek in August of last year. Did you see that show recently?
I haven't seen it. I'm gonna have to look it up. That's fantastic.
Amazing. But tell me about Weller, because I think I saw Paul Weller more than any other live performer from 91 to probably 06. I lived on top of Roseland in New York City, and he played Roseland a lot, but I saw him many different locations. The first time was at the Chestnut Cabaret in 92, right before I moved to New York. And there were 4 people. 4 people.
That's insane.
In the room. I thought I was having a coronary. I was like standing in front of him, shaking and dancing.
That's awesome. Oh my God. See, he has a good core audience here in Chicago. Neil Finn does too. So they play small venues, but they fill up. And the Vic is a great small theater, and it's a great place to see stand-up. It's a great place to see, bands. And I live now walking distance from it, which is just fantastic. And I always love being on a long walk and seeing the marquee, and it's like, look who's coming to town. Oh yeah, let me buy a ticket and go see that show. That's great. So it really is that kind of wonderful feeling like I had when I was in my 20s. And I was really lucky because XRT, the band, the rock station I worked at, they would be a sponsor of the concerts. So we had a box wherever the show was, and got to go for free and stuff. And John, no problem, we'll put you on the list. I introduced, I didn't introduce them. We did a live free concert on the radio with the Pretenders. Oh, and it was when Mother, I'm a Mother, that song was out. And it was only Chrissy and was it the drummer that were the 2 surviving members of the original group? You don't know?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Were you not a Pretenders person?
Not so much.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Because God, I love Chrissy, man. Great singer. I love that band. Good Lord. I'll tell you, man, Tattooed Love Boys. And I mean, of course, Brass in the Pocket and all the obvious hits. But no, I mean, I was that hit me in high school, man. I was a huge fan. So yeah, that was a really exciting thing that we did this live show. So the show revolved around the radio portion of the show. And it was like, okay, John, tell them to cue the lights. Okay, cue the lights. And I'm standing with the band. I'm like, hey, it's really nice to meet you guys. I'm like, I'll tell you when to go on stage. They're like, yeah, no problem. I mean, literally, it was 10 seconds of conversation, but I'm just like, this is incredible. I'm standing with the Pretenders. So yeah, Elvis Costello used to come to the station. Robbie Robertson of the band. Sure. Robbie Robertson noticed on his CD and I don't remember the title of the CD, but it was the CD that had Somewhere Down the Crazy River. And he was looking at the liner notes of the CD, and the credits were wrong. And with a ballpoint pen, he's like, incorrect. Actually, the guitarist on this song was blah, blah, blah. I should know I was there, Robbie Robertson. And we're like, wow. So that's why it was great. It was amazing.
Tell me about Paul Weller again, though. Now, were you the type of person to go to his shows alone? Because no one in their right mind would go with me to a Paul Weller show.
Not even Philip? Well,
What's
clearly
that?
not, because you left the room when you said we were talking about Paul Weller. So.
Oh no! Oh, Philip isn't really a live music fan.
Oh wow!
I see a lot of shows on my own, but specifically Weller. There's only one friend that I've had over the years who went with me to see Paul Weller at the Apollo. But all through the 90s, I'd go by myself because I would go to the stage. You know, I was there to dance.
I understand.
I just want to know, were you also impressed with how he can just like play on that stage nonstop? I mean, for hours and hours. And what a performer.
Totally. And again, that's why I'm loving his at home performances that he's literally doing on his staircase and just playing with his guitar. I mean, that's the thing. You know, even now as a solo artist, he still has a great band around him. But really, I'm just as happy to hear him do an acoustic version of Long Hot Summer or any of the classics and stuff. And and also the new stuff. I'll confess, I am more of a Style Council first, then Jam person, but I love both. And I do enjoy his new solo stuff as well. And I always think he has interesting ideas. But yeah, he's incredible.
I think he's an amazing singer-songwriter. I will also confess to being a Style Council Jam Paul Weller through to probably 97 hardcore. I think he's a tremendous performer. I'm always amazed at how he can chew gum, sing, play the piano, and play guitar at the same time. There's so few people who can chew gum and walk, and he can do all those things at once. I mean, I think I'm always mesmerized at his live shows. And
also the Jam coming when they did in that same kind of Sex Pistols area, you know, a time of British society, and just the raw power that the Jam had, and then transitioning into that smooth Style Council sound, it was just amazing.
Yeah, to me, I thought it was pretty seamless from Beat Surrender.
Oh yeah.
You know, like right on that style. I thought it was seamless. I think when you were mentioning, you know, from punk, I found the two bands that really blew me away most of all in the late 70s were the Jam and the Clash. Because to me they were punk, but they were punk because they were doing things that were a 180 from what the Sex Pistols did and what the traditional punks did.
Yep.
And I still think about how the Clash, like for me, revolutionized like music. And I was just writing about Sandinista, which I think is one of my favorite albums.
Yes,
certainly
absolutely.
Favorite triple album. But to me, that was that was the future, and that is the future. I mean, think about all of the things that were put into those three albums. You had reggae, you had rock and pop and dub and ska. It had everything. It's like an anthology.
Yeah, I was a big English beat guy as well.
Were you?
Oh yeah, Rankin Roger and what Dave Wakeling and everything. Oh god, yeah. In fact, I always get excited. There's a great and actually I will say it was a great comedy, a throwaway movie, Head Office, from the mid '80s with Judge Reinhold and a bunch of great comedians and stuff. And in the middle of the movie, there's maybe they were general public at that point. I don't remember. But all of a sudden, there's Rankin Roger and Dave doing a song, and it's like, oh my god, that's awesome! It's like, that's great. There they are. So I never saw. Actually, I take that back. I did see General Public once in the '90s. Never saw the Beat live. But yeah, oh god, no, and massive ska fan. I mean, really, I would be dancing at ska concerts. I loved ska. I really did, and I loved reggae too.
Two-tone. Did you wear your checkerboard two-tone?
Oh, I honestly and really, I am so bland in my fashion choices today, I'll admit. But man, in the 80s, I totally had that British working class look and had the cap and everything, and a million, as I'm sure you have, and in fact you're already with your dress, a million buttons on my concert buttons and band buttons and stuff.
See, you should bring that back. I've never stopped. I'm legit, like, always loved wearing my bands on my sleeve, as it were. But listen, I want to ask you a trivia question.
Sure, buddy.
You know, you and I talked about doing this big trivia about 6 hours ago. So
Yes,
I
we did.
spent
Oh,
5
please.
hours
What are you
working
talking
on all
about?
the
Weeks ago. You're
questions.
like, or months ago, you're like, all right, we got to do it. I'm like, okay.
So here's my question for you.
Shoot.
New York films. What's your favorite New York film?
Based in New York?
Yeah.
Um,
The film that made you say, New York's a go-go, and I want to go there.
After Hours.
Okay.
Scorsese's movie with, and now I'm blanking, what's his face? American Werewolf in London. Oh, God damn it. His name's like on the tip of my tongue. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
I forget his name now. He's the main guy in After Hours. After Hours was fantastic. And also, what are other New York movies really? Because I'll be honest, I mean, I'm a black and white movie buff as well.
Okay.
So, you know,
Black and
literally
white as in French New Wave or even
I
earlier?
appreciate. Man, did you have a great revival house growing up that would play French New Wave and all the classics and stuff?
When I moved to Philadelphia, I did. When I was out of college, I was really into the French New Wave when I was in college because I took film classes. So
Sure.
that was pretty intense. But yeah, I'm a big
Truffaut.
Eric Romer fan. And yes, I lived around the corner from, when I lived in Philadelphia, I worked at Kamiko. I lived around the corner from Fat Jack's Comic Crypt and from TLA Video. So I had everything I needed within like a 1 block radius of where I lived. It was great.
And in Chicago, we had in the city, there was a theater called the Parkway Theater. It's no longer there, but the Music Box still is. And in fact, I think they're tied to the Music Box movie production company because they use this exact same logo. But also in Evanston, where Northwestern University is, and I grew up in Wilmette, the town next to Evanston. That's where First Comics was, by the way, as well in the 80s.
I know
We had
that. I know
Attic
that
Girl.
because, well, I know that because Rick Taylor used to work for First Comics, and he was one of my first bosses. He was one of my mentors. He was the art director at Kamiko, so he taught me a lot about art and design and color theory.
That's
he's
cool.
Still a very good friend. So I know that I think he's from Evanston, and I know for sure he worked at First for many, many years.
Well, I talked to Mike Gold and John Ostrander and those first comics veterans, and I always tell them, God, you guys were making comics, and like an idiot. I'm at college down in Central Illinois, 2 hours away, and grew up right by where you guys were making comics. And I mean, and also I got a radio job downstate while I was in college, so I wasn't home much during the mid '80s. I was down there, but I was going to say the Varsity Theater right by Northwestern University, and that was great in high school and in college because then I could take a date to see Casablanca and see a lot of classic movies as well. And so where some of them may not have been comic book fans, they were old movie fans. So I got to date nice women that appreciated good movies. So that was cool. But yeah, like even Naked City, an old New York movie, I'm a big fan of that. The original before the TV show with Barry Fitzgerald and that a good cop procedural from New York. And really all the Woody movies. I mean, I know Woody's out of fashion now, obviously, because of the scandals and everything, but I won't deny, well, yeah, and understandably so.
Right.
Putting it mildly. But no, I really, honestly, I was like, oh my God, what a town. And that's why I really didn't get to, well, actually, when I covered boxing in the 90s, I got to go a lot to Madison Square Garden fights. So it was really, and I wrote for Boxing Illustrated. And my editor there, Bert Sugar, wonderful man, really showed me old school New York. And he's like, yeah, the hell with the new places, John. I'm going to take you to Gallagher's for a steak. And he was like literally cigar chomping, fedora wearing, classic old press guy. He was great.
Sounds like Howard Chaykin.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's why I love when Howard tells me his 70s New York stories and stuff. I'm like, go on. Yeah, please. So yeah, I love Howard. Howard's great. You're killing me.
I used to love teasing Howard about the blackout because I'm sure Howard Chaykin has the best New York blackout story. He used to come into DC and I used to say, Howard, sit down. Howard Chaykin's blackout story. He'd be like, they couldn't publish it. I'll tell you, they couldn't publish it because it was too dark.
That TV show, and now I'm blanking on it, about porn in New York in the 70s that HBO was running that James Franco was on. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I actually saw one season of that. Yeah, I know what
it's really good. And Howard would crack me up because he's like, I swear to God, I'm in the background. I mean, I'm not really, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm in the background of all these episodes. So yeah, he was cracking me up.
I think Megan Abbott, who's a wonderful crime fiction writer, was one of the writers on that show. and that's why I watched it. But yeah, I watched the first season. I want to just this was going to be a trivia question, but I'll just tell you anyway. We were talking about Night Flight, and there were 2 movies on Night Flight that changed my life, and one of them was Susan Seidelman's Smithereens, which I had to buy. Criterion had a big sale in December, and so I just
was that your New York film or one of them that really go on? Because I did want to know what your New York movies were. So please continue.
That's it. You know, that's the #1 movie that blew me away. That I always hoped that I could move to New York and it would still be like that. And so I moved there in 92 and I was like, it's not like that. But it was my New York from like 92 to 06 when I lived there. It was still amazing. But I always had hoped it could be kind of new wave, you know, like it was back in 81. I still think that this is one of my favorite movies. And Liquid Sky was another one. And I
loved Liquid Sky.
Yeah, yes. They were both on Night Flight. They were both just so weird and just experimental. And you know, I wanted to make movies like that. That's why I went to Ithaca College and studied film and video and audio production, because I had wanted to be a filmmaker.
I understand, buddy. And
comics got in the way.
Well, isn't it interesting? Because I kind of thought I was going to have a music radio career, and all of a sudden sports popped up as an option. And people think I'm a massive sports guy. I swear I'm really taxi, outside of boxing and baseball. I know.
Taxi now. He's talking about sports again.
I know.
Does someone want to interrupt the conversation? Wait, I'll have another camera disaster. Sorry.
No, but that was my detour, honestly. And I found myself for 16 years working in sports radio, and I'm like, all right, okay, you know.
As long as you enjoyed yourself, and
I did.
As long as, like, you know, you can now bring things. Would you? Oh no, that was a joke. Oh, my tech came downstairs again. It was a joke. We're still having live chat. Would you like to actually sit in the chair and have a chat with John? No.
Just say hi, Philip, really fast. It's all right. Just wave to me for a second.
Say hello.
Hello. I don't have my glasses on, so I don't look like myself.
He doesn't.
Hey, man.
He doesn't have his glasses on.
I nearly knocked over.
How are you? Still, it's lovely to meet you finally. Absolutely, man.
Hi. I'm watching you upstairs. You're like sort of 15 seconds in the behind, but like so I'm hearing Shelly laugh at something, and then like I'll hear the joke upstairs.
Well,
like 15
John
seconds
knows
later.
Paul Weller, and he's not happy that you don't
know,
think he's
I heard
a good
this.
musician.
I heard.
So
I'm sure that's your kryptonite. I'm sorry, Philip. Yes.
Paul Weller is not happy with you
I just tire of hearing about him.
Oh, is that it? Meanwhile, guess whose wedding song was a Paul Weller song?
Which one? You're the best thing that ever happened to me?
No, not that one. Not You're the Best Thing.
All right. I assumed.
We have to have another, we have to do that lightning round next time, because I really wanted to do a Name That Tune with you.
Well, we can, honestly, and I know China, is going to join us, I think, next month to talk about Inside Our Art. Yeah. So maybe that's the time that we can do it. Because seriously, buddy, I know it's like an hour. We're closing in on 2 hours, and I'm sure you've got stuff to do. I don't want to. Yeah. No, please.
I'm still going to send this to you as an.
You're adorable.
Because you need it in your life. So
I do need it in my life. That's lovely.
Coca-Cola Tic Tacs, and I'm going to send you Terminal City.
Okay.
Aerial Graffiti, and there was another book that you claimed you never read, and I was embarrassed for you.
I can appreciate that. No. I need to be schooled, so I appreciate that.
I will surprise you with another Black Crown book.
Shell, seriously, this was great, and honestly, I thank you so much for doing video, and truly, every conversation, I really appreciate our friendship even more. So seriously, you're lovely for hanging out and answering my nonsense. And see, we went an hour 50, and you were worried about 90 minutes.
Oh, it's because I'm shy. What can I say?
Stop.
Listen.
Bullshit. Well, you might be shy with your words.
Swearing. Thank you so much for inviting me back to the show. We had such a good time when we couldn't look at each other. When we did our audio a couple of years ago, it was a blast.
Absolutely.
So next time when you tell me that we're both going to dress New Wave, I expect for you to at least wear your pins and maybe your
Okay.
hat next
I
time.
think I'm gonna have to go on eBay because literally I don't have my pins anymore. I mean, when you move a million times, you shed things.
If you
So
go on eBay, you might want to actually think about bidding on the salmon.
this is true. Yes, and I will on the post of the audio direct people to the eBay and let them know too that what's the website for Insider Art? Oh, that beautiful Sandman is another item for bid at eBay and everything, and a rarity indeed.
It's a rarity. It is sealed. It's never been opened. It's copper embossed Sandman Season of Mists, which I think is like a lot of people's favorite Sandman collection. So, yeah.
Are you excited for the audio that Audible is going to do? Did you hear about that?
I did. I'm a huge Samantha Morton fan, so yes, and also BB Newirth. I'm like, wow,
I love BB Newirth too.
Great casting.
Yeah,
great casting choices. You would ask me what the Insider Art website address is.
Yes, please.
It's, believe it or not, insiderart.net.
Very good.
And the eBay auction is really easy to find. You basically just, why don't you list it? It'll be easier if you list it on wordballoon.com.
I will.
And if anyone wants to follow me, I'm always looking for more followers. My Twitter handle is SXBond, and on Instagram, I'm SXBond Imprimatur. And we have so much going on with Insider Art. Again, big shout out to my editors in crime who are working with me. I'm going to say all their names again. Chris Simon, Nicole Boos, Mariah McCourt, Megan Brown, Elizabeth Bree, Sophie Dodgson, and Chrissy Williams. And of course, Jen King, our retailer liaison, who is running the auction. We have so many cool things. And John, if you know anyone who might want to donate, we are open to donations of any kind. We're trying to do things from like $5 to $5,000. There's something for every budget. We're looking for collectibles. We're looking for art, anything to support female and non-binary comic book retailers, because we have to look after our own and we have to stay positive. We're getting through this, and we're making great art while we're in the midst of it. So don't miss out on this.
Agreed. And Shell, that's what when I said BS to you, I was saying that you might be shy with your words, but you're very strong and vocal with the projects that you get behind and create. And I'm glad that you're doing that, because you're a very important voice in comics. And truly, again, it's a pleasure to get to know you better with each conversation. So,
well, thanks. Back
absolutely.
at you. And next time,
all right.
You tell me that you're going to bring Paul Weller. I hope he comes next time. You did promise me Paul Weller would be on the show, so I hope you're going to deliver next time.
I have to get a cutout if there is one of him to just prop up and stuff and put it up. But no, and we'll do 80s trivia next month, because we're going to talk next month and have another conversation about Insider Art. And I look forward to it. I will let you go, and I will wrap up on my own. But thank you very much for hanging out tonight.
All right. And thanks to all of the listeners and viewers. Thank you so much. Catch you later.
See you, Shelly Bond, everybody. Listen, Insider Art's a great cause, and I'm very happy to help Shelly put the word out on this. And we'll be doing another conversation about this as well coming up next month on Word Balloon. So look forward to that. Hey, everybody, really, thanks a lot for hanging out. It was a great conversation. Seriously, isn't she the best? I'm telling you, ridiculous. So thanks a lot. And more Word Balloon Live coming up next week. I'll be talking I'll be pre-recording an interview with Alex DeCampi, talking about her Panel Syndicate book and a few other projects that she has going, and setting up other great conversations as well, both Word Balloon Live and pre-recorded video and audio to share with you in the days and weeks ahead. So follow me on Twitter at John Word Balloon. Follow me on Facebook under my name, John Suntress. And thanks for everybody watching. And Philip, thank you. You're saying great talk. And it was my pleasure and great to see you for a moment face to face in your magic hands as you were talking with Shell. That was great. But seriously, guys, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Be well, stay safe, stay happy, and stay healthy. More Word Balloon to come in the days ahead. Everybody, thanks a lot for listening, and take care.